Hello and welcome to another episode of Wheel of Horror, the podcast where two best friends spin a wheel once a week. It chooses the horror movie and they discuss it. Today we are talking about 1922's Nosferatu, which was directed by F.W. Murnau. I am your co-host Alec.
I'm Eric, and with us again is Matt Banever. Matt, welcome to the show.
Hello. I think we're on the better half of almost at 10. I think this might be like 6 or 7 episodes for me now, so I'm excited to be here with you guys.
Oh man, you and Dom are having a competition now. He just did Misery with us, and I think he said the same thing. He's like, I think we're at 10 now, guys. So, uh-oh. Well, it's a good one to be on for this one, because this is, quote-unquote, the 100th anniversary of Nosferatu. Technically, kind of.
Technically, March 4th, 1922, this released in Germany for the first time. It's a German film released in Germany 100 years ago, to the date, March 4th.
Right. So, that's insane. We're recording this on the 3rd of March. It'll come out on the 7th, but, you know, it's still the 100th anniversary, so...
Yeah.
But... was this the first time you guys had seen this film?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, no, definitely was. But on the 100-year thing, this is the only research I did for this today. I just wanted to get a sense of like what was going on in the world back then.
Oh.
So this movie came out 4 years after World War I. It was 23 years before World War II started. It was 57 years after Lincoln got shot. In 1922, they unveiled the Lincoln Memorial, and Lincoln's son, Robert, actually attended that.
What?
And President Warren G. Harding was in the U.S. In Canada, they created insulin. The BBC was created. Gandhi was in jail in India.
Oh.
King Tut had just been found in Egypt. Prohibition had just begun in America. Mussolini had come to power in Italy. And this timeline that I found was just kind of like going by country, and it's in Germany. It's like Nosferatu was released. That was pretty much all they had going on.
Yeah, they're like, nothing else happened the last 4 years. Nosferatu's out, though.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, man.
There's nobody else in, kind of we're keeping our eye on out there. Yeah, that's insane. Like insulin had just been created.
Yeah, geez.
That was so long ago.
Right, 100 years ago. And yeah, obviously the pandemic's going on right now, but the Spanish flu had kind of just ended around then too. And this movie had some kind of like parallels to what's going on, like with the pandemic a little bit.
I felt like I was getting the plague watching this movie. And I was like, oh my God, this is so old.
Yeah. I had no idea what the plot was. I've always seen pictures and stuff of him like standing in doorways. I knew there was something about a boat, but I didn't really know anything. But like the plot is so hilarious. They're just like, yeah, Dracula's moving in next door. Ba-da-bow.
Well, that's the real story of Dracula. I mean, that really is it, which... Eric, we had just done Bram Stoker's, the Francis Ford Coppola one, back in October. And yeah, this is like beat for beat, the Dracula story, which I did not realize.
Yeah, and they got in a lot of trouble for doing that.
Yeah, apparently the writer had to like change all the names, like all this stuff.
They changed all the names so they wouldn't get into trouble.
Right.
But then they got sued anyway. Bram Stoker's widow or whatever sued the living hell out of them. And that's what caused them to destroy all the copies. And it wasn't like 7 years later, somebody found like a second reel and they released it in America. And everybody was like, this is sick. We don't have alcohol, but we have Nosferatu.
Yeah, man. I had heard a little weird thing about this movie too. So like the producer of the film apparently was like into German occult, all this like weird stuff. And he was in World War I, and he was in Serbia, and he met one of his bunkmates somewhere, and he had told him a story similar to this, where he's like, my father died, and then they randomly, all this stuff started happening where people were saying they were seeing my father around town, but people started going missing, and then they find my dad, and all of his teeth were like filed down, and they burnt his body and buried him and all this stuff. So he said that he took inspiration from that story, but I'm like, okay, like, sure.
Dude, this is a vampire, and it's about real estate, and like, it's the same thing.
Right. Yeah, that was his defense.
And he falls in love with the real estate agent's wife. It's like beat for beat Dracula.
Like first impressions, like what was your guys' thoughts of like good movie, bad movie? Because you always see it on like the lists.
Oh,
Yeah.
you got to respect your elders, man. This
I
is
was waiting for it. I was waiting for you to say
respect
that.
your elders. Yeah, of course you were. No, but yeah, man, this is 100 years old, and I just like the editing, like how it jump cut, like all the time, like you'd see something and then it just like kind of move. You catch that a lot,
Oh yeah.
and it's just like, oh man, that must have sucked to reset that up again, and like, this must have been so hard to make back then.
Yeah.
Like, I can make this on my phone now. Like,
Yeah. It's so funny, like looking at it through lens today, because Alec, you and I think we talked about this on Evil Dead, how audiences today need to be like spoon fed the plot. And this movie just does not do that at all. Like, it's just like, yeah, it totally makes sense why the head realtor is like in an insane asylum now and he like knows what's going on. But like little things like that, or when I don't know who, that cab driver or Nosferatu, or if they're the same person, when he like
Right.
rolls up in that shady cab and it's just like, get in. And the guy Hutter's like, seems legit. All the horses are like draped in black and he's like so creepy.
Right. Yeah, they don't ever explain that, right? If that guy in the beginning is the same, it's just supposed to be like unsettling, right? Just to kind of put you off kilter, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you're just supposed to like be like, oh, because they mentioned something about like the visions, how Hutter's like seeing things. So I kind of saw it as like he just starts seeing him everywhere, even like leading up to getting to the castle.
Right. Kind of like it's just in the air, the intoxication of his whatever vampire evilness.
Yeah, some of those like, white cut images were hilarious, like so beautifully written, but they're like, he fills the sails with his demonic devil breath and like stuff like that. It's like, Jesus, this guy sounds like the worst.
Yeah. Well, going back to kind of just like the first impressions thing, watching it, I was just like, I have to just appreciate every single thing about this. I mean, just how awesome it is that they have this set. I mean, the fact that the nighttime, quote unquote, is supposed to, what is it, that blue filter they just put in front of it? That's nighttime, right? Little things like that.
I don't even think that was it, man. I think the film just got messed up. I don't know if that's really it, but maybe.
All of the, obviously oldness aside, the makeup and that Max Shrek guy, that still is scary. It still holds up. It's still unsettling. When he's like coming into the bedroom sort of thing, like slowly approaching the door, like that is still scary. The shadow as he's going for the doorknob and you only see the shadow, like still good. Like still holds up 100 years later.
I was gonna say, like, I watched this last night, just put it on my TV and was like, all right, I gotta pay attention. And I was like not happy when it ended. I was like unsettled. I was like, that creeped me out. Like that was not a fun watch. Like, I can only imagine 100 years ago what this must have done to people. They probably were freaking out. Like, now it's like 14-year-olds watching The Human Centipede. But like back then, oh my God, this was, yeah, you're right. It's like the lingering horror of it all was just so intense.
Yeah, man, I found a great comment on YouTube. That's how I watched this too, because it's public domain.
Yeah, same.
It just became public domain like 2 years ago too, because it's 100 years old. I guess that's how it works.
Really?
This person writes 4 years ago. My great grandmother saw this movie at her tiny hometown theater in the 1920s. She took an aisle seat because my grandma went too in a baby stroller. She kept next to her in the aisle. The air conditioning was large blocks of ice set in front of electric fans. The audience spoke the text out loud together for the benefit of anyone that couldn't read. So like when those subtitles came up or whatever, those cards, the theater would read it together for the people that couldn't read. Many people were illiterate back then, I guess. After the movie, it was several blocks away to walk home alone in the dark, since my great-grandpa worked that night, and my great-grandmother said she was terrified the whole way home and jumped straight into bed with the baby and pulled the covers over her head, and she kept the lights on too. So this movie must have scared the living shit out of people in the 20s. Like, there's probably nothing like this. Scary-wise.
Yeah, because, I feel like I've talked with you guys kind of like The Thing. We talked about this, how you never know, it might be somebody,
Yeah.
like who's got this disease. And now it's like literally the devil himself moves in next door. And it's like, that's scary to think about. You never know who your neighbors are, where they're coming from, far off lands. I mean, it's kind of like low key racist. Yeah, but it still is like, it leaves you, it's not just like shock value horror, which is kind of what I was expecting this to be, more just like disturbing images of him. But I was like, oh no, this actually has like a creepy theme to it.
It definitely has. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of just Dracula. It really, you're right though. Like, imagine in the early 20s or whatever, you're going back to your home, and you're like, wait, there is that new neighbor sort of thing. I'm like, yeah, you're right. Like, people didn't do this probably, in the 1800s. Nobody's really, I mean, except for America, nobody's like, let's travel, let's explore. You're probably born in a village, stay in the village, die in the village. Now in the 20s, you're right. Travel, flights, all these people are moving around. And then this movie comes out. You're like, I don't trust anything anymore.
Yeah.
To that point too, like 1920s, like I don't think there's a lot of horror films in general.
There's no films at all. There's no movies.
Bro, they're probably used to like, oh, Charlie Chaplin getting chased by a train and like in a factory, like, making funny noises and stuff. This is like, oh, we shouldn't have gone and see that movie. Like, I am messed up for the next 40 years. So that's what I was thinking of while watching this.
Have you guys ever watched a silent movie before?
The Artist.
That does not count.
I know.
Yeah, I think I watched the Charlie Chaplin one with like a train. I forgot what it was called, but I watched it in like a film class a while ago. I forgot what it was called, but it had a train and like Charlie Chaplin.
Yeah.
Yeah, I watched one like a Charlie Chaplin one, but he voiced over it actually. So he like narrated it. The film was silent and the way they interacted was, but he like voiced over it and did all the voices. So that was different. This was like, the first time where it was just like cute, like I don't even know what they're called.
Right.
Text cards.
I want to ask you guys, the version that you guys saw, it had music playing the whole time, right? Like there was like always an underscore.
That organ was just going off, dude.
Okay.
Loved it.
So I wanted to ask you guys, and I don't even know how this works, but maybe you guys do. I imagine there's the film reel, obviously, and then there's I don't know if every single theater had like a record that was just playing at the same time, but I was thinking like, there's a scene with the clock where it like bells and then he looks at it or whatever, or the door when it slams, like there's all these sound effects. I was thinking, I wonder when they were able to figure out like the sound effect reel, like the separate, there's the score reel, then there's the sound effect reel. They're like, okay, if this door slam doesn't happen at like this exact time, it's going to fuck everything up. So it needs to be perfect. But like that, there's so much riding on that. And now we take it all for granted, but like, all of those sound effects needed to be perfectly lined up with the score, which the score also needed to be perfectly lined up with the film. So I don't know. I thought
there wasn't speakers back then, man. There was an organist, and he'd be making the noises, and he'd be playing like sheet music, like at the theater. He'd be playing the music. Yeah. There'd be like no sound effects or anything like in the film that wouldn't exist.
Yeah, I was going to say like I know some of the more ritzy parts of town, their theaters, they would get like the band to play the music like they're watching a show. They'd be in the pit and they would play the film and then they would know the music ahead of time. And, maybe there's somebody with like those big cymbal things, when a door comes flying open or something like that. But yeah, I know that just for the music, they would usually have like the live orchestra playing depending on if you're in like the ritzy part of town.
Well, speaking of the music really quick, and I already texted you guys this, I'll gloss over it quickly, but the Neil Diamond song, America, the intro to that song has a very similar score to part of Nosferatu, especially towards the end when the woman's opening the window right at the end. There is a very similar score that's in Neil Diamond's America. Anyways, just wanted to get that
up. Yeah, you sent me America, and I listened to it, and I was like, I couldn't tell what part from Nosferatu, but I could tell like, yeah, that sounds about right. It really did.
I know, because you don't have a fucking iPhone, so I can't send you the video. I sent it to Matt.
I'm Samsung. Oh, speaking of Samsung, dude, while watching this, like I'd be so deep in like Count Orlok's Castle, and that damn BTS Samsung commercial would just come like blaring up, like side step right left to my beat, get it, let it roll, and it'd be like that, like every 10 seconds of watching this movie. I'd be like, all right, that's really taken the mood out of this one.
Yeah, I was gonna ask what commercials you guys got. I was kept getting that new HBO Max
Yeah,
pirate show. I was like, this is the worst because it literally goes from like he's literally about to die to like a comedy show with like Taika Waititi.
Really killed the silent film mood and the Samsung commercial.
Couldn't be a more colorful, noisy commercial.
I did watch some of this late at night on my Samsung too, like my phone. So I'm watching it on my phone, and I'm also thinking about like if I was to do this in 1922, like, hey guys, check out Nosferatu, and like show them my phone, and then show them Nosferatu, I'd be burnt at the stake immediately. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, seriously.
Like, dude, check out Transformers, and like, what? Like,
yeah. Going back to one of the plot kind of nonsense. Again, I don't know if they're cue cards or whatever those narration cards are, but they're talking about how like all these ships are like people are dying, and it's like, wait, how? Like he's one guy, he's on one ship. What are these other ships? How are they dying? Is it the rats?
Yeah, wasn't it the plague?
Is the plague? They think it's the plague, like that.
But didn't he bring all of his coffins with him?
Well, I thought he was killing all of the people on that ship, like, individually at night, and we just never see that. We assume, because they all say, like, they all had the same weird, like, neck hole wounds.
Yeah, no, on that one ship, but one of those cue cards says, like, we're putting a ban because, like, all these ships, like, several ships, people are dying.
Huh.
And they're like, we're unsure if it's the plague. That's why they're like, we're putting a ban on ships coming in.
Yeah, maybe they thought it was the rats. I don't know, because there's that one scene where he opens the coffin and all his rats come out. So maybe I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, little things like that. I was just like, wait, what? I also loved like some of Eric, you brought it up earlier, like the edits, like when he's piling up the coffins. He's also like the world's strongest vampire.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite shots. Was like him carrying that coffin.
Yeah, and then when he like gets in and the lid of the coffin just like rages up on top of it. There were some moments where I was like dying laughing. Like some of them, it was just like, damn, like they did that, and that's awesome. Like I'm so happy that they did that.
That was really cool. And then also when he's on the ship and he kind of like ghosts in or whatever, you know, or it's kind of like see through. I was like, ooh, like, all right, 1922.
Yeah.
I like that. I'm sorry, not the director. I think maybe it was the director. He apparently was another really creepy guy too. And I don't know if you guys know this, but his skull got like stolen out of his coffin like 10 years ago.
What?
Okay.
Yeah, they think like German occultists like broke into his grave and stole his skull.
What are your thoughts on that, Matt? Not good. It's not a good sign for a lot of things.
Oh my!
It makes me watch this movie and like, okay, now I can sleep easier.
Yeah, exactly.
It makes me feel better. Like vampires aren't real.
There's a lot of supposedly weird shit about this movie that like the reason it was so successful is because it was produced by German occultists, and now like 100 years later they're stealing his skull, so maybe the same cult exists still, and this is more than a movie. I don't know.
There's also that rumor, and there's also a movie about this that came out in like 2000 called Shadow of the Vampire. That Count Orlok, the guy Max Schreck who played Count Orlok, was actually a vampire, and that's why it was so good, is because the director was like, I'm gonna hire an actual vampire.
Right. Have either of you seen that?
No. Isn't it Werner Herzog or whatever?
It's super good. So it's Willem Dafoe and John Malkovich.
Yeah.
And it's such a good movie. I really feel like we should put that on the wheel too, Eric.
Yeah, we should do that. Count Orlok is played by William Dafoe, right?
Yeah. And John Malkovich is the director. And it basically blurs the line of, is this real? Is this not? And it's a lot of behind the scenes stuff about the making of this film. And
then skulls get taken from graves. Like after movies like this. Wait, when did that happen? When his skull was
like 2014, like fairly recently. So
okay, so
yeah,
that movie probably didn't help that that group out.
Well, no, they think that maybe the group helped fund the movie to like spread the word of their cult, basically. Because like you look in the beginning, that scene where that guy's like reading all those weird symbols and stuff like that on that one piece of paper. Like, what is that? And apparently, a lot of those are like cult symbols and shit like that from this cult. So
I mean, March 4th. I mean, today isn't March 4th. It's the 3rd. Tomorrow, like, keep an eye on the news. Let's see if anything crazy happens.
Oh my
like
God.
over in Germany or something. I don't know.
It's just like, yeah, like those symbols. Like, what the hell was that? Like, why?
Right.
Why did that guy? Why was he interested in that? And then he just like hands it over to Nosferatu, like as if it's just, here's a normal note that my boss wanted to give you. It's just like a drawing of a chicken and squares and stuff like that.
Your boss goes to you like, hey, sell this rich, creepy dude a house across the street from you. And he's from the country of thieves and ghosts.
Spirit, yeah. What do you say? Spirit, thieves, and phantoms, or something like that.
Thieves and ghosts, or something. And it's like he's gonna live. Oh, the house across the street from you. You're cool with that, right? It's like, no.
Yeah, that was that. I felt bad, but toward the end of the movie, I was just like, I don't know how somebody hasn't made like a spoof about if Nosferatu was like a 90s kind of moving in next door. It's just like, he's literally like, your wife has a pretty neck, super psyched to move in across the street.
All right, you ready for this, Matt? I'm so stupid. I just realized this is what we were talking about. That's what Fright Night is.
What's Fright Night?
You know what? That's right. It brings the neighbor into it.
He's a neighbor that moves next door. He's a vampire. It takes place in 1985, and it's like a high school guy and his girlfriend. And it's his neighbor, and then people start disappearing, and he's like, it's him, or whatever. But dude, I'm such an idiot.
This movie invents the bad neighbor next door. like, what's the other movie I'm thinking of with Shia LaBeouf?
Disturbia?
Yeah, dude, like that's...
Lakeview Terrace.
So many movies probably wouldn't exist without Nosferatu.
The neighbor from Home Improvement,
Yeah, exactly. Because it's literally just like, wow, this is insane that this dude is literally moving in next door, and she just looks out his window and he's just staring back in there. Oh my God, that was such a nightmare.
Yeah.
I do love that for how old this movie is, there are still so many references to it. Like, it's very rare to find somebody who has never heard of Nosferatu, which is insane considering it's 100 years old.
Bro, if you go on YouTube and read the comments, like 50% of them are like the SpongeBob movie brought me here or whatever. I guess he's in SpongeBob or something.
Yeah.
Nosferatu's in SpongeBob.
Yeah, even typing it into YouTube, it's like Nosferatu SpongeBob episode. But I just watched Logan the other day. And
good movie.
Alec, have you seen it?
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's one of my only Marvel movies I've seen.
Yeah, I was going to say, and there's that one part where the albino is like, you guys are talking about getting a sun seeker. Sun being the operative word. Going to have me going about below deck like I'm Nosferatu.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's in a lot. I was in a Rick and Morty episode at like the end too, where I guess one of like the coaches that was killed, his name was Coach Veratu, and like someone reports back to like the head vampire, like, "Hey, Coach Veratu died." It's like, Coach Veratu? Couldn't you pick like a more stealthy name? Veratu, like
that's
awesome. Funny. Yeah, they remade it in 1979 apparently too. So I mean, maybe that helped it, but everybody knows this one. They know the original one.
Yeah, everybody has that image, like that vampire,
Yeah, I mean, it's so scary. The other thing is, another thing about Max Schreck. Do you guys know what Schreck means in German?
No.
Ogre?
Terror. So it's like, this guy is evil.
Okay.
Like,
okay.
This guy's name is Max Terror.
Yeah.
I mean, Eric, do you think that he helped inspire like Boris Karloff's and the Lon Chaney's of the world?
I would say, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, speaking of another silent film I have seen Phantom of the Opera.
Oh,
with Lon Chaney. I feel like it's shorter than this, but definitely, dude, definitely.
Yeah. Well, I can't believe that this movie's also an hour and a half. Like, it's one of like the first movies. So like, let's go big.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what made me feel about that comment I read on YouTube about like the ice blocks and like the air conditioning, like sitting through a movie in the heat. Maybe like March wasn't that hot, but like maybe a couple months later, it got really warm in a theater.
Well, this came out in June in America.
There you go. Yeah. So people were probably sweating their asses off watching this movie and being like, I feel like I'm dying and like scared out of their minds.
What do you guys think they ate in the theater in 1922? Do you think it was actual corn on the cob with like butter and stuff?
Cracker Jacks.
Cracker Jacks. Yeah, wasn't baseball a thing back then?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just like, people always talk about airplanes. Like, we had filet mignon on airplanes in the
Yeah.
60s. Now it's like, they throw like peanuts at you. But I wonder if like movie theaters had like full meal service, like white glove people coming out. I doubt it. But...
No.
Already talking yourself out of
They
it.
probably had like people that would carry you out if you passed out from heat stroke, and that's about it.
Yeah. But it is like crazy to think about just how people today mentally need to prepare to go to a movie and sit there and watch something. And think about 100 years ago, what else were you doing? Like sitting and watching something. If you went to the opera, it's still like open and you go with your guests and it's a huge social event. Like this is a whole concept of just going into a dark room and just watching pictures, and they scare the living fuck out of you. Like,
two other things to bring up to that. Like, this must have been like the family's entertainment for the year.
Yeah.
Like, how many times they go into the theater? There's probably like not even any movies coming out. Now we have a movie coming out every week.
Yeah.
Like, bunch of movies coming out every week. The box office. Before this was like, hey, put a nickel in this Nickelodeon, which is like this little screen you put your head in, and then you wind this thing for a nickel for like 10 seconds, and it's like, okay, that's your entertainment for the week. Now go home. Like, but like, also that, and then rating wise, like, could you bring like your comment was the woman brought a baby stroller in to see Nosferatu on YouTube, the grandma and the baby stroller. That's what I read. So I'm guessing people brought their like 5 and 6 year old kids with them. There was no like motion picture association to rate this shit. Like,
well, what can you compare it to? Yeah, there's nothing to be like, oh, it's like that. Like
World War One.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like,
it's not as scary as World War One. Yeah. Oh my god.
It got banned in like Sweden for 10 years because of excessive horror.
Damn.
What? I mean, yeah, I guess something had to. Something had to be the first like scary thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm looking here. There's a couple other things that kind of like perpetuated its lore throughout the 20th century. I guess Blue Oyster Cult did a song about it. Then I guess Stephen King's Salem Lot. Apparently that vampire looks a lot like Nosferatu, and it does. And then I guess there's a video game for the Commodore 64. There's an Are You Afraid of the Dark episode.
I've seen that Are You Afraid of the Dark episode.
Yeah, so there's always been sprinkles of it. People really like this movie.
Probably the best reference is What We Do in the Shadows.
Oh yeah, he's the guy like in the basement
when he comes out of the coffin.
Yeah, he is Nosferatu, and it's just like the best when Taika Waititi like comes downstairs to like get him for the flatmate thing, and he's just like moves the stone, and he like freaks out, and he's like, "Oh, that's a spinal column," and he's just like all scared of him. That's the best.
Yeah, because he's like the oldest vampire like ever, right? That
guy. Yeah. They have vampires from like different versions. They have like the heartthrob Twilight, and then they have like the badass like Dracula, and then they have Nosferatu in the basement.
Right. Yeah, that's so. Yeah, Eric, you should see that movie. I haven't seen the show, but the movie's pretty funny. Dude.
The movie's hilarious. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But yeah, I haven't watched the show either. But I definitely. You guys probably go through this all the time, is like talking to friends about old movies, and people are like, God, I can't get into old movies, or like blah, blah, blah. But like every time I watch a movie that is super old, I'm like, that was awesome. Like that was better than I expected. Like the graphics were better than I expected. Like the story was better. Like, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just my love of cinema, but I was just like watching this, and I was just like, yeah, that looks ridiculous how fast the horse and carriage is like coming up the hill. But I'm still like, that's so sick that they did this. Like, bottom line, this was like groundbreaking.
Yeah, this one especially is like old.
Yeah.
You have to put yourself in a certain mood where you look at something, you're like, wow, like this is real history. This is real art. This is real hard work. Like they did what they could at the time. So it's really about perspective, I feel like. Yeah, if you show a 10-year-old this, they're going to be like, eh. But if you're like, sit down and pretend it's 1922, you've never seen anything like this, maybe you'll appreciate it differently. It's a great freaking movie.
Yeah. I would like to get maybe like the Blu-ray and just listen to like the commentary and stuff, because I'm sure those guys, not that any of the original people are alive, but like just
they're all gone.
Yeah, surprisingly.
I actually looked up the last person alive was 1980.
That's insane. He got his skull stolen, but but just like, there's people that are like probably dedicate their lives to like the history of this, like old cinema, Nosferatu. Like they probably have so much insight into like what went into this and like how they made him kind of appear and like what the prosthetics were for his fingers. Like those fingers were crazy.
Right. I mean, I don't know what version you guys saw. I saw it on something called like the Halloween app on like Roku or something. I don't know. It was because it was free and I didn't have to watch commercials.
YouTube, man. The BTS commercials really ruined
that.
it.
Yeah, that was that kind of sucked. It did give me time to like be like, okay.
But the version that I saw, I don't know if you guys did, there's so much like beginning, like pretense stuff. It's like, all right, so they found this thing in like 1940 and they took it in so this sound is from this part. So did it have that for you guys?
What? No.
I don't have
Okay, so the version that I saw, it was like reconstructed from, I don't know. So it's like anytime it has this little watermark in the logo, this was the part that was restored from like the fire from like, okay, so maybe I saw a different version than you guys.
You also made a good point about like, I guess they were burning the copies because like Bram Stoker's estate was like suing them or something.
Yeah.
But the music too was destroyed. And I guess the music wasn't found until like the 70s or something, like the original score, which is like, I don't know if that's true. I read that somewhere. It might have been a YouTube thing. So there's no weight behind that, but if that's true, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Did I just see the Neil Diamond version? Like, is that maybe why I thought it was America? It's just Neil Diamond playing the whole time?
Maybe.
Neil Diamond single-handedly discovered the Nosferatu soundtrack.
There's so much lore behind this movie.
Yeah. No, it is cool that it just like got pieced together. Just probably not by chance, but there was like stuff bringing this film back together, and just to see the history of cinema and what it could be. I loved all the transitions, like the I don't know what you call them, but it looks like your eye is closing. It was like every single transition was that.
Yeah, I know. I was noticing the chat. I was like, how do they do that? Like, I want to know, because now we're just like, I'll put that filter on and we just drag and drop it into a software. But how the hell did they do that back then?
Yeah.
Yeah, the commentary would be interesting, Matt.
Yeah.
Now it's like the 100-year 4K Ultra Blu-ray version of
you just like sit down, Nosferatu sitting next to you.
Yeah, it gets that crazy. That's gonna be a thing though, because like that Michael Jackson, thing that came back in Tupac.
Yeah, the holograms.
Yeah, they have fucking Nosferatu hologram coming out of your TV with you.
Yeah.
Oh man.
But even just like, I mean, this is like a little random thing, but talking about cultural impact, I'm sure anybody watching this film for the first time would hear the line or read the line about, oh, I got 2 little mosquito bites next to each other on my neck. And it would probably be like, yeah, that is kind of weird. But now it's like, obviously that's a vampire that just like wrecked you. But it was back then. I mean, this was like the first vampire movie, probably the first reference to vampires in a pop culture sense that anybody had seen. I don't know, like, if in history books they're like, yeah, vampires suck your blood. But I mean, like, this was the first time the whole biting the neck thing was new to people. And you could say it in a movie and have it not sound ridiculous. Like, 2 mosquitoes bit me on the neck.
Right. Well, it's kind of like, because I'm sure there's those people, those weirdos back then that were like, oh, I read Dracula. We got to go see the movie sort of thing. But then, like, most people have no idea what you're talking about. So they're just like, okay. And then, could you imagine sitting with somebody in 1922 and they're like, oh, when the mosquito bites part comes, like, I know what that is. And the guy's like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Your wife has a beautiful neck. I'm going to move in next door.
That was the best line.
That wasn't subtle.
Yeah. He's just like dead staring at him.
Crazy.
Anyways, great movie. Definitely glad I saw it. Happy we can do it for the 100th anniversary. Do you guys have any last minute thoughts?
Just to give our listener an idea of what the text was like, because it was very dramatic. At a few points during the movie, they're reading from this book about vampires and phantoms and their deadly sins or something. And there's this page that's like, deliverance is possible by no other means but that an innocent maiden maketh the vampire heed not the first crowing of the cock, this done by the sacrifice of her own blood. Like, this is the level of
people that steal skulls.
Just gravitas that goes into this plot. It was so dramatic. It wasn't like, yo, we got a murderer. What's going on? It was like, you're so invested in it.
Yeah, you have to decipher everything. I mean, it's basically, it could have just said like, yeah, if Clara lets him bite his neck, he's not going to know what's going on. He'll get distracted by the sun and die. But it's like, no. The crow, the rooster is what raises the sun. And yeah, so I love that.
Yeah. One final thought just on the whole concept of like silent films. I did really like that they have to pick and choose what speech they turn into text. Because you watched like two people talk for a while, and it's like
here's your cup of water.
Yeah,
you see that happening. Yeah.
All that's just inferred. Like Hunter goes to the bar, sits down, he and the bartender are talking, and all of a sudden a beer shows up. You're just inferring it, and then all of a sudden he says like, "Yeah, I'm going up to Count Orlok's spot," and everybody freaks out. Like,
you're what?
You know, I liked that. You know, because I was like, God, how many times is that text gonna show up? Like, just not having any idea of like the pacing. But I was like watching it, I was just like, this is like, that was enough. I didn't feel like I needed more. I didn't feel like it was, you know, I needed less. Like, it was nice to see that they were like, these are the lines, these are the 23 lines we're going to use to tell this story. Like that, I thought was such a cool aspect of this.
I'm going to Count Orlok's castle, and the next card is hell nah.
Just a thumbs down emoji.
You're right though, Matt. We are so far removed from like the elegance of that to where we're at now.
Yeah. Oh God. Now it's just, to tell my story, I have to make it 4 hours long.
Yeah. Well, I wonder how long this movie would have been if the text was on the screen. You know, like if it somehow was in the bottom, you know, as we're talking.
Subtitles? This movie would be like 45 minutes. Those text images stayed up for a long time. I was like, shit, did I miss something? I should go back and reread this.
Get the bouncing ball to go across the screen.
Oh my God. shitty karaoke. All right. Well, Eric, you got any last minute thoughts?
Yeah, just happy 100 years to Nosferatu. If you're out there listening, Count Orlok. I believe you probably are. We're big fans, so be nice to us.
I know. I want to know what happened to that skull. I really think this movie is like there's a cult involved.
Oh yeah,
do. I think they're involved and they're alive.
Oh, and they're doing something with that skull on the 100th for
stuff.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, we have our first ad read today that we wanted to have Matt Banever, the creator and CEO of Bards, and he's gonna give a little ad read here. So get ready.
Do you appreciate good things? Feel like your outfits never reach their potential? Are you tired of personally funding slave labor? Bard's Clothing is an American clothing company founded by me, Matt Banever. All of our clothing is made here, right in America, from custom suits and shirts to casual sweatpants and hoodies. We're making sure your story is tailored. You can find us on Instagram at Bard's Clothing. That's BARDS Clothing, or on our website, bardsclothing.com. And for all of you spooky listeners out there, we're giving away a exclusive code for 15% off our website for all of our knitwear. So the code is WH15. You type that in when you want to check out. That applies to everything on the website. Like I said, it's all knitwear. So thank you very much and stay golden, my friends.
Boom. Love it. That was great. No, seriously, Bards is awesome stuff. I did personally get to check it out when I was in Connecticut, and I got to saw Matt's old warehouse. So it's awesome stuff. Seriously, check it out.
Thank you.
Well, Eric, is it about that time?
I think it's about that time. Ready, spinning. The Vigil.
Ooh, I know absolutely nothing about this movie.
What is that movie?
Neither do I. I saw it as like one of the top new horror movies to check out. So we added it to the wheel.
Okay. Yeah, you picked this one.
I think it's going to be really scary. And we're going to be, going from Nosferatu to this. I don't know what's going to happen, but we'll find out.
Well, I'm all about vampires tonight because tonight I'm actually seeing The Batman.
Right. Oh, that's coming out. out. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Wait. Oh yeah, it's Thursday. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I got 6 p.m. tickets, and because I know that this is going to be amazing, before even seeing it, I already have tickets to see it again on Sunday.
Oh,
Damn. You're out of
my
control,
God.
dude.
Yeah,
Oh
I
my
had to take
God.
out a loan to take out these.
I bet, dude. AMC's like $4 more than the normal
It was
ticket.
$21
For
Per
one
ticket?
ticket?
Yeah.
For one ticket?
for one ticket.
Whoa. Is it an IMAX or something? Or?
It's IMAX, but AMC. I mean, you guys have seen that. You know, AMC is surcharging their new movies. Yeah, which I'm honestly fine with.
Okay.
You know, they're
Interesting.
like, yeah, they said that they've been doing this for years in Europe. They charge more for new movies and more for like the best seats in the house. So I already know IMAX in Plainville, seat M15. That's my seat. If somebody takes that, I'm freaking
Get
out.
your ass up.
Yeah, exactly. I just go there like Dom sitting in my seat.
All right. Well, Matt, thank you so much. And we will see everybody next week with The Vigil.
Thank you all, beautiful people.
Woo!